Hey everyone, my name is Olaf and today I'll teach you how to make the animation you just saw in Blender. We're going to do both the modeling and the rendering. As always, it's going to be quick and easy, so let's get started. Okay, so we need to switch from blend render to cycles render, and then click S, then X to scale the cube on the X-axis. Then left click to confirm the scale, and then we need to scale it up, so click S to scale, and then S, then Y, then 1.8 to scale it 1.8 times on the y-axis, which is to get the right aspect ratio. So left click to confirm the scale, and then we need to model the back of the TV. So switch to edit mode either by clicking tab or switching down here, and then go to face select and then select the face on the back of the TV. Then click E to extrude, and then left click to confirm the extrusion, and then click S to scale down the extrusion. Now to make the back of the TV a little bit more smooth, we can click Ctrl B and then use the mouse wheel to add additional edges. And then left click to confirm once again. And now it's finally time to add the frame and the screen of the TV. So we need to use loop cuts to add additional edges. So click Ctrl R and then use the mouse wheel one time to add two of them. Then click S, then Z to move them on the Z-axis, and then left click to confirm. And now we need to add edges vertically as well, so click Ctrl R once again, and then use the mouse wheel one time, and then left click to confirm, and then click S, then Y to move them on the Y-axis. Then let's set it around here, and then left click to confirm. Okay, so now we need to extrude the faces that we just made to make a frame around the screen. So hold in Shift and select all of the faces around the screen. And this one, and then the last one. And then click E to extrude. Just a little bit, and then we need to click Ctrl B to use the bevel, and then use the mouse wheel to add additional edges. So add a few, and then left click to confirm. Now to make this tutorial as simple as possible, I will only use cubes and cylinders to create the TV stand and the TV table below it. So to add a new object, go back to object mode and then click Shift A to add the cube. So Shift A and then a cube, and then click G, then Z to grab the object on the Z-axis, and then click S, then Shift Z to scale it only on the X and Y-axis. Then click S, then Z to scale it on the Z-axis, and then just S to scale it down. And click G, then Z to grab it on the Z-axis, and G, then X to grab it on the X-axis. And then to add some smoothness to the object, click Ctrl B for the bevel, and then use the mouse wheel to add additional edges. Okay. And then we need to add the second cube, so click G, then Z to grab the cube on the Z-axis, then click S, then Z to scale it on the Z-axis, and then click S, then X to scale it on the X-axis. And then click G, then Z to grab it on the Z-axis, and then S, then Y to scale it on the Y-axis. And then click Ctrl B once again to use the bevel, and then use the mouse wheel to add additional edges. Okay, so now we have the TV shape, so it's time to save for the first time, I think, just to be sure. So go up to File and then click Save As, and then give the file a name and save it wherever you want on the computer. And then we can click Shift A and add a cube, click G, then Z to grab it on the Z-axis, then S, then Z to scale it on the Z-axis, then G, then Z to grab it on the Z-axis, and then click S, then X to scale it on the X-axis, and this is going to be the table, so we need to make it wider, so click S, then Y to scale it on the Y-axis. And I'm not going to add any bevels to this object. Now I'm going to add 2 levels to the table, so we can duplicate the first level. So click Shift D to duplicate, and then click Set to grab the duplication on the Z axis. Then left click to confirm the position, and then click Shift A and add a cylinder. And let's go into edit mode and select each face on each side. And then click N and increase the mean increase value to 1, which means that when you add the subdivision surface modifier, we're not going to subdivide each end of the cylinder so that each end stays flat. Okay, so scale it down, click G, then Z to grab it on the Z axis, and then G, then Y to grab it on the Y axis, and then G, then X to grab it on the X axis. And then let's grab it, and then grab it upwards, click G, then Z to grab it on the Z axis, and then we go into edit mode and grab the lower face on the Z axis downwards. So click G, then Z to grab it on the Z axis. Now, in order to duplicate the table leg 3 times, I will use the array modifier. So add the array modifier, and then change the X value. And let's move it down a bit. And then grab it a bit on the X axis maybe. And then we need to add another array modifier. And then set the X value to 0, and then increase the Y value to duplicate them on the Y axis. Okay, so now we have 4 table legs, so let's save the file, make a new one, and then we can finally get into the materials, the lighting, and the screen. Okay, so let's start off with the lighting. So select the lamp, change it into a sun, change the size to 1, and then change the strength to 7. And click G to grab the sun, and then click R to rotate the sun. And then let's select the table and add some materials to the table. So right click to select the table, and then go to the materials, make a new material, and then change it to the principled shader. Now start off by making the material completely white, and then change the transmission value to 1 to make the table transparent, as you can see when we go into the rendered view. And then just copy the same material for the legs and the rest of the table, like this. And then we can change the name of the material as well. So let's change it to glass, and then Shift Z to switch back to solid view. And let's add the floor as well. So click Shift A and add a plane, and then click G, then Z to grab it on the Z axis, then click S to scale it up. So something like this. And then click New to add a new material. And for the floor, I'm only going to add a glossy material, and then set the roughness to about 0.5. And for the background color, I'll make it almost completely black. Some people might think it's too dark, so you can change the color to whatever you want to, but I'm just going to make it dark, like in a cinema. Okay, and then set the rendering to GPU if you have one. If not, just keep using the CPU. It's going to be a bit slower, but it's still going to work. So make a new material for the television, and then set it to principled, make the color black, or another one if you want to have a different color for your TV, and then change the metallic value to 1, and then change the roughness to around 0.4, and I will change the clear coat value to 1. For the sake of time, I'm not going to explain what each value means, but you can easily Google the principled shader and find out yourself. So let's just copy the same material for the TV stand as well. And let's make a new save. Let's make this one number 3. And now it's time to add the screen material. So make a new material, click New, and then change the material to emission, and then change the color to image texture. And then we will go into edit mode, and then select the screen face, and then click U to unwrap the screen. And then go into the UV image editor, Okay, so now what we need to do is to add the video file or the image file to the face that we just unwrapped. So go down to Open and open the file. So just find the right folder and make sure that video files are visible as well. And then select the file, open image, and then we need to select the file next to the Open button. Now once the video file is selected, there are a few more steps we need to do before the screen works. So first of all, we need to assign the material to the screen face and then auto refresh and then increase the amount of frames so that we actually get enough frames to show the video. Okay, and then just remove this window by dragging it. And then let's use the camera. So click numpad 0 to look through the camera, click Shift F to use the fly cam, and move around with WASD in the fly cam, just like in a video game. Now if the video you added to the TV has any sound, I would recommend just adding the sound in iMovie or Movie Maker later on instead of doing it in Blender, because that's much easier. Okay, so let's go into render settings, set the resolution quality to 100%, and then let's make an output folder where we save the animated file. And we're going to save them as images in a folder. So let's make a new folder, and then select the folder. And then once you have selected the folder, just give the animation a name. And the reason why I render them out as images is because it's easier to pause and resume the rendering. Now set the samples to 200 or 300 if you want the animation to look better, and turn on denoising as well to get less noise. If you have a GPU, make sure to set the tile size to 500, if not, just leave them at 64. Now after a few minutes of rendering, this is what it looks like. So now I'm just going to make a few small changes. That's why I speed up the video, because these changes doesn't really matter that much. It's just slight differences in the colors and the materials. And I think I will change the brightness of the sun as well to make the sun a bit stronger. So let's set it to 12 and then make a new test render. And now I'm going to animate the camera. As you saw in the final animation, there was some movement to the camera in the beginning. So select the camera, and I also have to make sure we're in the first frame, and then keyframe the location and the rotation, and then move forward in time. And then use the fly cam, Shift F, and move around with WASD. Then click I and keyframe the location and rotation once again. And now we have some basic movement to the camera. And then click animation, and that's it for the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I'll post a new tutorial very soon. So thank you guys for watching, and subscribe.